Hey y'all, welcome to episode 2 of designing a granite epoxy CNC machine from scratch. Here's where I am now after another day of work. And Onshape has a really cool thing. You can see what the prior version looked like. So I'm naming my versions YouTube 1, YouTube 2. If I click on YouTube 1, it will bring up the version that I shared on the first episode. So this is what I had at the end of the last episode. No headstock. Here we are now. This first episode, current second episode. So obviously a lot of changes. We have the headstock, we have the spindle, we have the Z-screw, the linear bearings. So I'll talk a little bit about the head. So it goes up its full range, and if I put it all the way to the top and we measure from the top of the table to the bottom of the tool, we get 250 some millimeters, which is 10 inches. So that's what I wanted. I wanted 10 inches on the Z. And if it comes all the way down, so we'll be able to machine the table to make it flat. One other thing I changed is on the first one, I had a lot of space between the top of the ball nut and the bottom of the table. So I have that further refined here. The gap here is only a couple millimeters now. Actually, the limiting factor is the top of here. So if I move this table out to here, I have 2 millimeters of clearance between here, and the top of the ball nut has more clearance. I don't know if this is worth putting a notch in the table, on the underside of the table, so it passes over this bearing mount, which would allow me to move the table further down and maybe make the whole system shorter. I'll have to see what other commercial mills do there. I'll probably just leave it. Let me talk a little bit about the spindle. So the spindles I'm looking at are these green ones on eBay and AliExpress. They come in a few different sizes. There's an ER16, there's an ER20, I think they also have an ER32, and then they have a BT30. They're cheap, so the BT30 is the most expensive one. You can have it delivered for $260 some to the United States. They have a few different RPM versions. They have 3,000, 6,000, and 8,000, and the only difference I could see is the bearings that are inside. This spindle brand is probably my number one choice right now. I do want a heavier duty spindle instead of more of a router spindle, and I don't really want to go above 10,000 RPM because I don't want the machine to be really loud. I actually live in an apartment, so I don't want that screaming, whining sound that comes from the 20,000 RPM and above spindles. I have all three spindles modeled to scale. I put an actual tool in it, 1/4 inch diameter, 1 inch long tool. And of course the BT30 has a tool holder. So I put all those in there. When we look at it on the real mill, we can see how much space it takes. So this one here is the ER20. I have them lined up on the back mounting surface, and I have the bottom of the tool even. If I use the BT30, you can see how much more it sticks out, or it sticks down. So I would need a lot more height here and more height on the column, which will mean more weight. I'm kind of leaning towards using the ER20 version. Even though it won't have preset tool lengths, I'm not going to have a tool changer on this. So I don't know if I'm really going to have any advantage of using the BT30 design. It's going to make the mill heavier and taller. What I would have is an electronic tool setter. So after every tool change, it would come and touch the tool setter and put that program in the CNC control. Let's get a weight of this whole system. The weight of the whole thing is 75 kilograms right now. So that's 165. That's 165 pounds. My goal was 150 pounds, and I'm already over that. If I need that bigger spindle, that's going to add probably 7-8 kilograms, the spindle itself. Plus I'll need to make the column taller, which is going to add more weight. So I'm really leaning towards this ER20 spindle. Let me talk about the materials for a moment. I'm going to look at the BOM table. I used concrete for the densities of all these structural parts. That was built into the Onshape CAD system, and I couldn't find epoxy granite pretty much anywhere online or on the CAD system. I used concrete as a baseline, so I don't know how far off that is. I did find one number for epoxy resin, which is not with a granite. It's roughly 60% of the weight of the concrete. But then the density of the granite is 30% more than the density of concrete. It's all an approximation of the weight. I don't want to make it heavy. I actually have to find ways to lightening this as it is. It's going to be too heavy for me to lift onto a tabletop. I'll probably be looking at reducing the height of this. So right now it's 100 millimeters, which is 4 inches. Or the width here, that's 125 millimeters, that's 5 inches. or maybe putting a PVC tube inside here so it's hollow when it's cast. I just don't want it this heavy. Another thing that was causing me some concern is on the TAG, the distance from the column to the end of the ball screw. You can see that's quite a large distance. It has the ways here and has some structure here, and then the screw is further out from that. There's a lot of wasted space here that can't be used because the vise on top of the table will hit the screw. I wanted to make sure I minimize that. This is one of the weak spots of the TAG design. Here, all three axes are the same. There's a linear rail, there's a truck, and then there's the ball screw. And the ball screw fits inside this channel. I can make that channel deeper or shallower, which will affect how far the screw sticks out relative to the ways. Here you can see the screw is pretty much flush with the top of the ways, but the bearing block sticks out quite a bit. So it's not anywhere as bad as this stick out, but I don't know if there's a way to optimize that further. I guess the only thing I can do is I can make the screw deeper. I'll have to see how other machines do it and if that's really an issue at all. It's definitely better than the TAG. If I push this in further, then there's going to be wasted space between the bottom of the table and the top of the screw. But at least on the Z axis, that might be worth it, so I can get more cutting area before I hit anything. So I think these other two axes, X and Y, it doesn't matter, but the Z, it might be worth doing. So actually, let me try that really quickly, see what happens. But here I have this feature here, Z channel. If I make that 25, for example, and now switch to the assembly, it pushed the screw in deeper. Now the nut is past the ways, so it would never hit. In fact, I pushed it too far. I don't know if this introduces any disadvantages, but I think that might be worth doing on the Z so I have more working envelope before I hit anything. One other area where the detail is going to come into effect soon is this mount for the linear bearing. This piece here is the way itself. This piece under it, I think is blue. Forgive me, I'm colorblind. I don't know if it's blue or purple. I'm going to call it blue. This blue piece is what's embedded into the epoxy granite, and the linear rail gets screwed to it. If you look at the blue piece on the Y-axis, it has a lot of cast material surrounding it. And if you look at that same piece on the X-axis, it just has a little bit of material, so that's 3.5 millimeters. If you look at the same piece on the Z-axis, it comes all the way to the edge. It's not really embedded into the surface at all. The question is, if I make all three of them like this, then the width of the casting could be less. If I make all three of them like this, then there's this extra material, 15 millimeters, that's about 5/8 of an inch, on each side of it. We add weight, which is good for milling, but bad for my back and lifting this up. I'm going to have to figure out which way I want to go and probably make all three of them the same. I was thinking with this way, this metal piece is now more securely tied into the casting. There would also be screws going inside here that have a head, and that would be captured in the cast. I think even if it's like this and not captured at all except for those screws, it's probably going to be fine. But if you guys have any comments on that, if anyone else made an Epoxy Granite CNC, how much does this actually have to be embedded into the casting? Another area that came up for discussion on the Facebook comments was this blue piece having a lip for the linear rail to register against on one side, and then on the other side having a clamp. So basically the linear rail would be clamped left to right direction within this blue block, and then the screws that mount the linear rail to the blue block would just tighten it down. The professional machines all have that. The hobby machines, it seems some people do it, some people don't. I would love to do it. It just might make things harder if I actually machine this. If there's no lip, what I was thinking, cast this all together, the blue pieces plus the base, cast that together, and when they come out of the cast, use a surface plate, a granite surface plate, and put sandpaper on that surface plate and use that to get the tops of these mounting surfaces flat and parallel with respect to each other. If there's a lip here to register this against, I won't be able to do that. And that lip would have to be put on after the casting with a big milling machine. A lot of this design is going to come down to what tools I have available to do this with. And I actually do have a Bridgeport milling machine, but it's in the house I grew up in. I got it when I was like 22 or 23. So it's in my parents' house, which is in Pennsylvania, and I moved to Atlanta 10 years ago. So the Bridgeport is still in Pennsylvania. I never moved it to Atlanta because it was just too difficult to move. If I end up making this and driving this up to Philadelphia and have access to my Bridgeport there, I go up to Philly a few times a year to visit family, I can probably cast this and then put the whole thing on the Bridgeport table and machine these top surfaces flat in one holding setup, drill all the holes and put the ridge in. If I don't want to do that, I probably won't be able to put a ridge at all or any clamping mechanism, and I'll just have to block the tops of these flat with some cheap surface plate with sandpaper stuck onto it. So that's to be determined. It's really going to have to do with what tools I have available to me. The next steps I have to take is this is all roughed in, but the travels aren't totally right. The Z is probably right, but the X and Y I have to fine tune to make sure that I'm working with off the shelf lengths available for the linear ways and the lead screw, and make sure I have the travel I want and that the width of the table is wide enough. So this table right now is 150 millimeters, which is 6 inches. The TAG table is 3.5 inches, so half of that. If I change this length from 150 to 200, then I won't get the travel I wanted before I hit anything. That all has to be balanced out. I'm going to work on those details for the next segment. Once the travels are really where I want them, then I'll know exactly how big this frame needs to be and get a better estimate of the weight of the system. And then from there we can go further. So that's what I have for this episode. Thanks very much for watching. See you the next time.